Morbious is a garbage piece of shit movie that I watched. Man, I don't even know what to say. This movie was horrible. I watched this at midnight, and this movie's bad. It's weird because I hate the Venom movies, and that's why I assumed this movie was gonna be bad. Also, it's Sony. Like, what movie has Sony done the last several years that was good? Don't come at me with Ghostbusters Afterlife. That was just okay. Um, and yeah, I mean, I watched this movie just because everyone else is gonna watch it. I want to hear what the hell's going on with it, and I've heard rumors and stuff. I am gonna talk openly about spoilers, but that's not gonna be till the end of the video, so probably just warn you about it. But basically, this movie is an hour and 40 minutes, and I literally was sitting there for the first hour, and I got up to use the restroom for the I turned on my phone because I turned it off, and I'm looking at the time because I was just wondering how much it is because I watched it so late at night. Checked the time, and it was more than halfway done. This movie just flows by, and not in a good way. I mean, nothing in this movie is a nothing in this movie has a good flow or pace to it. Nothing in this movie is fleshed out. Things just happen. The order and sequence of events doesn't really matter. Like, they just happen, you know? And I mean, there's a core interesting story. It's weird because I don't like Venom, but I think this movie could have worked better than a Venom movie because Venom relies so heavily on Spider-Man. But they could have made that work, but they didn't. So here we are. I mean, because this is a story about a man who's a monster, and he has to struggle with his human side and vampire side. And I really think that's an interesting story, but they don't do much with that. I mean, he struggles to control it, the movie, and then the movie just ends. Like, this movie has one of the worst movie endings I've ever seen because it isn't an ending. It just ends. Like, the character talks about something he's gonna do, he doesn't do it, and then the movie ends. And of course, I'll talk about that in spoilers. But the special effects in this movie look horrible. Like, Morbius looks like shit. The and all the characters and all the CG in this movie looks terrible. The performances are all right. They're doing the best with what they can, but the script is just dog shit. It's just because it feels like half of a script where there's some pieces here, but none of it makes any sense. The story is just all over the place and just nonsense. It's just, it's so bizarre what this movie is. All right, spoilers. So if you were expecting Spider-Man references in this movie, well, Sony says, whoop, no. There are literal shots in the movie where you could see where the Spider-Man references were in this movie, but they're cut out. And Vulture shows up at the end of this movie, which doesn't make any sense because that's not how the spell works. He just randomly shows up. They let him out of prison. What I don't understand about this is this. Vulture is a character that in the MCU has a family. This was established in the movie he appeared in. So now you're just ripping him away from all of the characters that he's involved with and his family so you can set up a damn Sinister Six movie. Because in the movie, he's like, oh, I'm going to set up a team. And I'm like, what the hell? What are we doing here? This is garbage. It just makes no sense. And why would you want that? And it's just, it's a mess of a movie. The villain was garbage in this movie. What? There are so many lines in this movie where characters talk about relationships that they have. Like the villain in this movie talks about how his caretaker, who takes care of him because of his blood condition, he's like, Michael was always your favorite, and blah blah blah, he's your favorite, and he like, this whole thing. I'm like, this was not set up. It just happens. That's this whole movie, and it just ends. And the thing that I talked about at the end, where a character is going to do something, Michael talks about how he's going to kill himself. And he just doesn't. And there's no explanation as to why he doesn't. He just doesn't, because guess what? They got to make sequels. The movie just ends. The movie ends the way it started. Like, at the beginning of this movie, they just flash the Marvel logo and they flash the Morbius logo. They do that again at the end. And it's so bizarre. It's just, what the hell is this movie? This is a movie that you can tell was screwed over in the editing bay. There's so many weird sequences where characters are like gargling blood, and yet there's no blood coming out of them. It's just, this movie is a bad movie, and it's a mess. And I don't recommend seeing it. And I think, and it's weird because people will see it because Spider-Man's supposedly going to be connected to it, but it isn't. They lied to you, they tricked you, and they got you to see their piece of shit movie that's a dog turd that you just step on, and you're just like, ugh, and you're like scratching it off trying to scratch it off with your shoe, and it's not coming off. That's what this movie is. I'm sorry for that analogy, but that's exactly what this garbage movie is. No one should see this or support this. Go to hell, Sony.